Well, hello and welcome again to a reading through of Plato's Apology of Socrates, and I'm up to chapter 27. In the numbering system, that's 37a1. And this is a continuation of Socrates' speech after the verdict's been given, but before the final penalty's been given. And so, as I mentioned before, Miletus is called for the death penalty, and Socrates has the right of reply to make an alternate offer of what the penalty should be. So he begins, Issos ud humin kai tauta legon paraplesios doco legain, hospe peritu oictu kaites antibolesios, ap authadid zominos. Therefore, perhaps, speaking tuti, perhaps in this way, speaking this thing, it's got that deictic E on the end. So also speaking in this way, perhaps almost I might seem to speak parallelios in a similar way as, understand I did, regarding oiktu. Well, it's sort of pity, and antibolesios, this is from antibolesis. There is a verb antibolio, to entreat. So this is pity and entreaty. Ap authadzominos, you get authades meaning arrogant. Here it's a verb, so, and the apo perhaps strengthens it here, so being very arrogant. Now he's referring here back to an earlier section where he said, I'm not going to come in here with my children and wife screaming and pleading for you to have pity, as many others did in the law courts. So that's what he's referring to. So perhaps I might appear to be arrogant, he says, and speaking in a similar way as I did before in regard to pity and entreaty. Tode uk estino andros athenaioi, but this is not, it is not toi uton, such a thing, alla toiondi malon, but rather the following thing. In other words, this is not the case, O men of Athens, but rather what I'm about to say. Pepes my ego, hekon anai, meidena adikain anthropon, alla humas tuto upatho. This is a perfect from Patho. It's literally, I have been persuaded. We still use that expression. It's so I am of the firm belief. The anai is a bit awkward here. It's an absolute infinitive here and really can't be translated. You've got to take it with the hekon, to be willing, literally, but we take these together almost adverbially, so willingly or intentionally. So I'm persuaded that that I have wronged no one of men intentionally. Allah, but I am not persuading you tutor of this thing, in this matter, so in respect of this. Oligon ga chronon alelos di elegmetha. This is a perfect form from Lego. So it's for, we have not discussed it with one another, we have not debated with one another for a long period of time. In other words, I've only just had time to talk to you about this. This is, the verb here is from dialegamai, to discuss. This is a perfect form here, I think. Epe hos egoimai. Now that's a standard crasis here. It's ego plus oimai. So since, as I think, if there were a law for you, hospe kai alois anthropos, as there are also for other men, perithanatou me mian hemeran monon crinain ala polas epes thetian. So if there were a law for you, as there is also for other men, not to make a judgment in one single day alone, but understand after many days, epeisthete, you would have been persuaded. Nun de ou raidion, but now it is not easy, and I'll move this across, it is not easy, in chronooligo, in a short time. Now this is middle apoluestai, so it's to clear myself, to remove, to loose myself from, so to clear myself of great slanders. Perhaps you could say, some translations say grave imputations. It's literally to clear myself of great slanders. Pepes menos de egomeidene adikain poludio emauton ge adikasein kai katemautu erein autos hos axios ami tu kaku kai time seste toiuto tinos emauto. So again, this is this perfect, I have been persuaded. In other words, I'm strongly of the belief, indeed, that I am far from, we've had this idiom before, I am very much of the belief that I have not wronged anyone. So in other words, since I am indeed convinced to have wronged no one, a chi would have been better here, but we don't get it. So I am far from, indeed, so I am very far from being about to do harm to myself. So in other words, I'm hardly going to wrong myself, and I am hardly about to speak against myself, that I am worthy. Now you notice the accent on the no accent on to plus the enclitic here, so this is to for tinos. So that I am worthy, perhaps that almost I deserve any evil, to for tinos, so that I deserve any evil, and to impose such a certain thing upon myself, so anything of that sort upon myself. We've had this verb before, it's timaamai in the middle, and it's very, he's using this all the time here, so it's an important verb, and it takes a genitive, which is why we're getting the genitives here, and we'll see them a bit further on as well. So it means to impose a penalty. So just a quick bit of bin. So I am convinced that I have done no one wrong, and I am hardly likely, in fact, to be about to do myself wrong, and to be about to speak against myself, that I am deserving of any ill, and I am far from being, this is a future again, I am far from being about to impose any such thing on myself. Tidesas, fearing what thing? Now we get an A introducing the question here with a may. Surely it's not that I might suffer this thing. Now it gets put into the genitive because of, again, this timaamai verb. So it is surely not that I might suffer this thing which Miletus is imposing upon me, which I say, I do not know, a uti a agathon uti a kakon estit, whether it is good or whether it is bad. So in other words, he says, what am I frightened of? Well, it's certainly not the death penalty that Miletus has trying to put upon me, so I don't know whether it's good or bad. anti-tutor de helomai, and indeed instead of this, and again it's a question here, this is hiereo in the middle, to choose, this is the aorist here, aorist subjunctive. Instead of this, indeed, shall I choose, and then it's partitive genitive here, I think. The hone goes with the cacon-on tone. And this sentence really is a mixture of two different constructions here, so it's slightly awkward. So instead of this, shall I indeed choose those things, or from those things, which I know, being evil in some way, and then he says, imposing this upon myself, so proposing this punishment, imposing this thing. Poteron desmu. Now we get poteron, but there's no a here really, except in the sense a bit later on, I think. So it's sort of a question, shall I then impose imprisonment, or desmu, perhaps incarceration? And it's genitive again, you've got to supply this verb tima'amai, so sort of like, tell me whether I should impose incarceration. Kai timoi de tsain en desma te rio, du luonta te ie kathista mene arche tois hendeka. And why is it necessary for me to live in the desmaterion, in the prison, du luonta, serving the established office for arche, the office so it's perhaps it's inside with the te, so with the continually established office, literally, and the 11. Now what he's referring to here is there was a board of 11 chosen, one person from each of the 10 tribes plus one administrator, and they were in charge of the prison. So he says, why should I live being in the prison, serving this board which is continually established, literally, the 11. Alla crematon kai dedestai heos an ekteso. Now again, you've got to supply this verb, I keep mentioning tima'amai, and taking the genitive, which is why we've got genitive here. So it says, shall I impose a fine of money, kai dedestai, and to be tied, literally, to be bound, to be kept in prison. It's like our old expression, to be bound over. And be bound over heos an, until I might pay it back, from ektino. Alla tauton emoestin hoper nundi elegon, but this is the same thing I was saying just now. This is the same to me, so it's just the same as I was saying just now. Uga estin, for there is no money for me, hopothen, from whence I might pay it back. From ektino is the verb. Alla de fugace timosamai. Timasamai. Or, indeed, shall I impose fugace? This is exile, or perhaps flight, but exile. And in fact, that was one of the options that were put to him. And in fact, a lot of his friends were encouraging him to do that very thing. But of course he didn't want to do that. For isos ga'an moi tutu timacity, for perhaps you might, subjunctive with this verb again, you might impose this thing on me. Pole mentan, this is mentoi plus an, me philipsukia ekoi. Philipsukia, it's literally a love of life. So, however, a great love of life would take hold of me, would possess me. So a great love of life then would possess me, O men of Athens. If hutos, if I am so logistos, so illogical, so stupid, as not to be able, logizestai, to reckon, let me get a nice pun on the two forms here, to reckon that humes men, you on the one hand, being citizens, uk hoioite egeneste enenkein tas emas diatribas kai tus logus. Just pause there for a minute. So we get the hoios te ami, but for variation he often uses gignomai in place of the ami, so it's that, just a variation on that idiom. So I would be very stupid not to be able to reckon that you, on the one hand, being citizens, you are not able, enenkein, from Pharaoh, to bear or to put up with my diatribes, with my debates, and tus logus, and my words, perhaps arguments, but, and I don't think, well, yes, there's the men here. I think the debt is down here. So you, on the one hand, being citizens, are not able to put up with my diatribes and words, but they have become baruteroi, from baros, they have become heavier for you, kai epithonoterai, and, well, epiktonos, odious or objectionable, they have become more objectionable. We might use the superlative in English, the Greek uses here the comparative. So they have become almost most difficult to bear and most objectionable. Hosti, so that, zeteti, you are seeking, nuni now, to be rid of them, from apolasso, to be separated from them, to be rid of them. Aloi, now I think this is the de answering the men back up here. Aloi de ara autas oisusira ideas. So do you think that you, on the one hand, but that others will easily bear them? So two parts of the sentence here, one very long and then the alternative's very short, but others, on the other hand, indeed, accordingly, will easily bear them. Oiso, future from Pharaoh. Polygede, indeed, it is far from it. We've had this idiom before, O men of Athens. Kalos un an moi hobios ae ex elthonti telikoidi anthropo alein ex ales polios ame bomeno kai ex elau nomino tsain. And he's being tongue-in-cheek here, he's being slightly sarcastic. Therefore, it would be a fine life, or life would be fine, and then to live. So it would be a fine life to live for me, going out, being a man of, so for a man of such an age, these are all datives after the moi, so it would be a fine life for me to live, going out, being of such an age, literally exchanging one from another city. So, in other words, going from one city to another and being driven out. So he says going to exile would not be any degree of pleasure. and I don't cling to life to such an extent that I would be prepared to put up with that, is what he's saying, that use of philopsychia ekoi earlier on. Euga oid, for I know well that wherever I might go, genitive absolute, when I speak, hoi neoi, the young men, akroasontai, this is from akroaomai, this is a future here, will listen as they do here. Kan men tutus ap elauno. And if I drive them away, so in other words, when they come, they all want to come and hear me, but if I were to drive them away, on the one hand, men, and the debt is down here, they themselves, persuading their elders, they will themselves will drive me out. And if I do not drive them away, the fathers of them, their fathers and oikei and their relatives, understand, will drive me away, de autus tutus, well, on account of they themselves, so for their sake, that is, for the sake of the young men. And that is the end of chapter 27.